Mayor Bill de Blasio said on Sunday that the thousands of protesters massing on the streets of New York this weekend to express their anger over police brutality had not changed the target date of June 8 to begin reopening the city.
But city health officials urged protesters to take whatever precautions they could while demonstrating and invited them to get tested for the virus.
In terms of impact on our reopening, I see none, Mr. de Blasio said at his daily news briefing on Sunday, estimating that about 5,000 to 6,000 people had been involved across the city during the peak of the protests on Saturday night.
A few weeks ago, Mr. de Blasio had branded the idea of protesting in the middle of a pandemic idiotic, and he had urged people to find ways to express their frustrations without gathering. Some protesters and civil rights lawyers feared public health restrictions during the pandemic were being used to curtail free speech.
But on Sunday he acknowledged the perfect storm of anger created by the killing of George Floyd by the police in Minneapolis, combined with the impact of the pandemic on people of color.
You have all the frustrations about injustice, combined with the frustrations about the injustice within the pandemic, because the pandemic displayed immense disparity, combined with the fact that people spent 2 months cooped up indoors and we don't know what the summer brings, he said, adding that he supported the right of people to protest peacefully.
Governor Andrew M. Cuomo echoed those thoughts at his daily briefing in Albany, saying, "It is not a coincidence that the protests are happening in the middle of a pandemic."
Dr. Theodore Long, who is leading New York City's contact tracing efforts with its public hospitals agency, urged anyone who had been involved in the demonstrations to get tested for the virus and to protect themselves while out.
We strongly encourage anybody who is out in the protests to wear a mask, practice proper hand hygiene and to the extent possible, socially distance, though we know that's not always going to be feasible, Dr. Long said.
Jumaane Williams, the city's public advocate, also strongly defended people's right to protest on the streets. But he did express concern about how the protests could increase the spread of the virus.
We need to pay attention 7 to 10 days from now to any spikes that we can see, Mr. Williams said.
We have to be careful, but I don't think we can tell people, watch someone get killed on camera again, and stay home, Mr. Williams said.
As New York City moves toward its target of reopening on June 8, Governor Andrew M. Cuomo said on Saturday that state officials were focusing on controlling hot spots in the city and preparing its hospitals to deal with a potential second surge of coronavirus patients.
Over the next week, officials will focus on ensuring the city's 11 public hospitals and more than 100 private hospitals have what Mr. Cuomo called surge and flex capacity, or the ability to shift and share resources as needed, to deal with a potential spike of new virus patients, Mr. Cuomo said on Saturday. We want to make sure we have that refined over the next week, because if we have a problem we need all these hospitals to work together, Mr. Cuomo said during a news conference in the Bronx. Mr. Cuomo said officials would also concentrate on reducing the spread of the virus in the 10 zip codes in the city with the highest infection rates, which include predominantly low-income and minority communities in the Bronx, Brooklyn and parts of Queens, by adding a new testing center in each area and distributing hand sanitizer. New York City is the only region in the state that has not begun reopening because it has not yet met 2 of the 7 benchmarks set by the governor for reopening. The city does not have enough hospital beds available or contract tracers in place. Still, both Mr. Cuomo and Mayor Bill de Blasio have said they expect the city to meet these criteria by June 8. Also on Saturday, Mr. Cuomo signed a bill to give death benefits to the families of public employees who had died because of the coronavirus. You gave your lives for us, he said. We will be there to support your families going forward. He also reported 67 new virus-related deaths in the state for the second day in a row. On Saturday, Governor Philip D. Murphy of New Jersey announced 113 new virus-related deaths, bringing the state's toll to 11,634. It was 18 fewer deaths than the state reported the previous day. He also reported 910 new confirmed positive cases in posts on social media, pushing the total to 159,608 cases in the state. The new figures came as the state was preparing to fully reopen child care services and some summer programs for children to begin operating over the next several weeks. On Friday, the governor signed an executive order allowing child care services to open to anyone on June 15. They have been open for children of essential workers and health care workers.
In order to continue our momentum in restarting New Jersey's economy, we must prepare our workforce to return to their jobs by ensuring a continuum of care for their children, Governor Murphy said in a statement. Our child care centers, youth day camps, and organized sports will adhere to strict public health and safety protocols so that New Jerseyans can confidently participate in the restart and recovery process.
Outdoor, non-contact sports practices can begin on June 22, and youth day camps, including city summer programs, can open July 6. The executive order excludes residential and overnight camps.
As the New York Times follows the spread of the coronavirus across New York, New Jersey and Connecticut, we need your help. We want to talk to doctors, nurses, lab technicians, respiratory therapists, emergency services workers, nursing home managers, anyone who can share what's happening in the region's hospitals and other health care centers.
A reporter or editor may contact you. Your information will not be published without your consent.
Reporting was contributed by Sharon Otterman, Azzy Paybara, Dana Rubenstein and Edgar Sandoval.